Fourth route.
You don't say that.
Why?
It's so sad.
I know. Oh, I'm finding it all rather stimulating.
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. So we continue from where we left. We were discussing the second chapter, uh, in which we discussed the human personality and the various possibilities that it has. The human personality has many possibilities: physical possibilities, mental possibilities, skill sets, which it develops by developing the mind. And also, there are other possibilities which are known as spiritual possibilities. When one reaches the level of Vijnanamay Kosha, we discuss the five koshas, the five levels of our personality. So when we come to the Vijnanamay Kosha, our spiritual sensitivities are explored. We explore those possibilities, and finally Anandamay Kosha, that is the innermost core. We discussed in great detail all the five levels of human personality. Now, after having discussed that, we come to a very important topic, because when you say human personality, more or less, whether it is according to Western psychology or Indian psychology or even Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, mind plays an important part. It's one of the most important aspects of the human personality. Of course, body is there, but body is common, the common thing that we share with animals. Animals have bodies. They are predominantly body oriented. They have a primitive type of mind. As I said, it is known as Manomay Kosha in the human personality. We distinguish between two types of minds. One is the Manomay Kosha, and which is the reactive mind, which we share with animals. Animals have a very well developed Manomay Kosha, because well developed in the sense they react, the capacity to react to external stimulus, the information they get from the different sense organs. In fact, they are sometimes, in some respects, they're sharper than us. The dogs can hear very sensitive sound, it can smell much better than us. So, in many ways, we'll find that when it comes to the Gaurav, when it comes to the uh, reactive mind, you will find when it comes to the reactive mind, some of the animals exhibit characteristics which are far superior than human beings. For example, as you know, dogs can smell much better than human beings. So that doesn't mean they have a better mind than us. Some faculties, some sense organs are sharper than ours, and they have a skill which perhaps human beings don't have. For that reason, we cannot say that they have a better mind than us. They definitely don't have. So, that is why when you speak of human possibilities, according to the Upanishads, we distinguish between the reactive mind, which is manas, and there is another aspect which is known as buddhi. So, buddhi is something, if you translate it loosely in English, it is wisdom, the wisdom to make choices, to make the right choices in life. So, we make choices. Sometimes the choices are wrong, sometimes they are right, sometimes they are good, sometimes they are bad. So, who decides that? So, it is the discriminative mind or the buddhi which is responsible for exploring that possibility where the mind, the higher mind or the buddhi, helps us, the buddhi helps us to take well informed decisions. It's okay, they can hear anyway. Uh, Take well informed decisions based on the discriminative capacity. The capacity, it is known as viveka. In Sanskrit, it is known as viveka buddhi. So when you say a person uses his buddhi or he uses his vijnanamay kosha, which is the a higher mind which a person develops as a result of spiritual practices and concentration of the mind, that's an entire science by itself. It is the main topic of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, where in yoga, which means control of the mind, the human possibilities or the divine possibilities are explored. And that, in fact, spiritual life begins when we develop the manas and transform it into buddhi. So our buddhi is what is to be awakened. And that is the essence, as I said, always say, the Gayatri Mantra was given at a very early age, between 6 and 8, and that is a second birth. We call a person who gets Gayatri from his parents. It's not necessarily boys, as I keep repeating this fact, that nowhere in our scriptures it has been emphasized that Gayatri Mantra should be given to boys and to a particular caste. No, it was it was mandatory for every child between the age of 6 and 8. A lot of scriptures emphasize this fact. Nowhere it is said that it is to be given only to boys. So girls have equal right for that. A child between the age of 6 and 8, because as I said, the capacity to develop wisdom or develop buddhi is what is attained by this that particular faculty, which is known as by developing the Vijnanamaya Kosha. We discussed all these things in great detail. Now we come back to the essence of trying to discover in a human personality what is the imperative need for investigating into the very nature of mind. Whether you discuss about the lower mind, which is manas, which is a reactive mind, of course it is in human beings it is far superior, because human beings are capable of analytical skills, so many other skills, musical skills. So in fact, the Howard Gardner, a famous psychologist, he says there are different types of intelligence. He has classified intelligence into different distinctive types. It's not just analytical intelligence that is intelligence. There may be visual intelligence, which can result in a person excelling in drawing and art and other things. Then there is musical intelligence, even to develop the mind to appreciate music, to appreciate the significance of notes, different notes in human sound. That is also an intelligence. So it's not just analytical skills that are termed as intelligence. There is visual intelligence, there is kinesthetic intelligence. That means the skill to do things perfectly, like sportsmen. Their intelligence, most of their intelligence is developed in the field of coordination, the coordination between muscles, nerves, and the mind. So they develop this kinesthetic skills. So there are different skills. Then there are two other skills which Gardner says, Western psychology says, can lead to different types of skills. One is intrapersonal, another is interpersonal. So intrapersonal means you have a very clear idea of what your personality is, what are your capabilities, what you can do, self-confidence, and all the characteristics of a human being, which make him a very smart person. Not only smart, but he's very self-confident about himself, about his goals in life, how he can attain to it. It is known as intrapersonal. Interpersonal means when you deal with different people. Some minds are very good at managing other people. So they become very good managers. They can adjust with everyone. So Gardner calls it interpersonal skills. So they become very good administrators, good managers. That is also a skill of the manas or human mind. We have not even reached the state of buddhi. A very skillful administrator may have very little buddhi in the spiritual sense. He may be a very clever person, he may be a very shrewd person because he has developed the manas but not the buddhi. Once the buddhi develops, then he becomes compassionate, just as Buddha and other great noble qualities which different spiritual personalities demonstrate in their life. These are not a result of skills. It is not a result of development of manas, which is the lower mind. A lower mind, the maximum development or all the possibilities of the lower mind, if they are developed, a person may be highly skillful in all these aspects. He may be very good at music, he may be very good at analytical skills, he may be very good at visualization, art, and he may be very good administrator. There are people who have multiple skills. Though Gardner says it is very difficult to have all the 9 skills together. Some people have musical skills, some people have visual skills, some people have analytical skills. So depending on what skills a human mind acquires, he becomes a skillful person to that extent, and we can say his manas has been developed. So he is a very wonderful person, but that doesn't mean he will be a good person. He may use the same skills to do evil actions. He can become a very wicked person because he has the skills and he is misusing them. He is misusing his intelligence, he is misusing all the mental skills he has. So who decides whether the skills that he has is used rightly and trained in such a way that it chooses the right path always? That is not possible without the development of buddhi. The development of buddhi is the faculty, is a spiritual faculty which is developed as a result of a famous prayer of Rig Veda, that is Gayatri Mantra. So, Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata, that is the prayer. And mind you, I am repeating again and again because nowhere in the scriptures it is said it should be denied to any human being. Every human being, when he goes to school, before even he starts his secular education, that is the age when normally in those days, at the age between 6 and 8, a child was supposed to acquire these noble qualities along with the skills. He will acquire all the skills which will enable him to get a job or maybe do some business. So many things he can acquire. which will make him a successful professional person. Whatever skill he wants, his parents and the school and the Gurukul, everything they would be focusing upon. But along with that, they felt that unless we give wisdom along with that, some possibility which can be developed as a result of this Gayatri mantra, which is not the essence of all the mantras that we do in our tradition, is to develop that capacity, a higher possibility which will make us make the right choices in our life. So this is a very important fact. So when you say mind, the mind and its ways, how to wield it, we mean both the skill sets that we require to become a good professional or a good, very capable person, a skillful person, and also a higher skill, which is often ignored in our schooling system, schooling, college education. Nowadays, they don't give much importance. There's no question of repeating Gayatri because that tradition has gone. So, Gayatri was just one prayer. There are many such prayers, there are many such mantras, many ways, according to Patanjali, where you can develop this higher faculty. So, when you say the possibilities of which we can explore in a human being, though we say mind as a single unit, first of all, we should know what the mind is. So, we should also try to discuss why should we investigate into the phenomena which we call as mind. We take mind for granted. We take so much care of our body, our nutrition, our physical, our health, everything we do. But if you ask, or if you tell a child, or if you tell any parent also, that there is a need for making some kind of investigation or exhibiting some concern about how the mind develops. So there is some lopsided development in our education system. We develop one part of the mind, no doubt, as I said. The skill sets, the lower mind or the manas is developed far superior. I think the present day children, they have far more exposure to the skill set development. There are so many new skills which our older generation did not have. So these skill sets are developed. So in that sense, the mind is getting developed. It is getting more developed. They are more intelligent at a much younger age. They understand many things. But the problem is the higher mind, which is entirely different than the lower mind. Manas and Buddhi are totally different. They are totally different koshas, the Manomay kosha and Vijnanamay kosha. So the spiritual life and the real development of the mind takes place when the Buddhi is developed. So we should know what develops the Buddhi. First of all, you should know, or we should know, that we have to investigate into these two aspects of the mind. Before even thinking of developing the lower mind, we don't need to think much because the schooling system and the college system, all our academic education, they mostly take care of these aspects. So if you don't have musical skills, there'll be some extra time that the student can, as I told you, there are 9 types of intelligence. They even make the child play so that kinesthetic intelligence develops, then analytical skills, mathematical skills, so that he can use his reasoning and make an informed decision. He develops all these skills, and the better the education or the better the school, they see to it, according to Howard Gardner's mental skill, the 9 mental skills, mental intelligences, they see to it that as many skills can be developed within the time frame of the curriculum, I mean the school hours. The curriculum is designed in such a way, if it is a very good school, that all the child is given a chance to develop all these different types of intelligences. That much progress human being has made. So it's not enough if you have analytical skills, you should have visual skills, so that some drawing and other things are there, art. you can appreciate. Then there is music. So whether you like it or not, some music definitely it will help. Some training in music, though one will not become a musician, but at least he knows what music is so that he can appreciate. And then two other skills like how to manage one's own self, intrapersonal skill. So intrapersonal skill is what qualities like confidence, self-confidence, faith in oneself, and taking the initiative, not blaming others for our failures. All these are intrapersonal skills. But interpersonal skills, as I said, deals with how to deal with other people, managing other people. Interpersonal means there are many people who they are very sure of their own. They have a very clear idea of what they should do in life. Their intrapersonal skills may be very nice as long as they are alone. But when they come in company of others, they find they cannot manage other people. So you may say that the interpersonal skills are lacking. So modern education tries to balance, give a balanced uh, education where all these different types of multiple intelligences are developed. So, but there is one intelligence which Howard Gardner added at the end. He felt I missed out one important skill, which he calls. He doesn't call it spiritual, but somehow it hints the skill to make oneself satisfied or content. That contentment which comes as a result of making a wise decision. This is also a skill which he, towards the end of his life, he accepted that and he said that skill also is necessary. He may be very good at music, good at so many things, but if he doesn't know how to use those skills to make himself happy, he may govern others, but is he himself happy? So we find that when we investigate what is the need of getting into the nature of mind, we have to find out that our happiness, our unhappiness, our knowledge, our ignorance, knowledge of the outer world, knowledge about ourselves, our strength, our weaknesses, other strength, others' weaknesses, idea of freedom, the appreciation of the idea of freedom, and what is bondage. So whether it is a right mode of living, adharma or dharma, right mode of living, dharma, or wrong mode of living, adharma, everything depends on the cultivation of the lower and the upper mind or the higher mind. So these are the two things that need to be investigated. Whether there are two different types of mind, whether there is a higher mind and a lower mind, and how they interact with each other, which controls the other. Obviously, Vijnanamaya Kosha or the Buddhi controls the lower mind. Reactive mind has to be controlled by something higher. So that it all depends on how we cultivate the higher mind. That is what spirituality is all about. And yoga or Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, they focus more on the higher mind. That is why they say first to investigate into the nature of the higher mind, we have to first control it. So see that the waves do not disturb the mental waves which come. So we find that any investigation into our own possibilities that we can explore in our own personality or others' personality deals with how we explore the nature of the mind. So one thing is sure, that it is through the mind that we have to make this study. That is why Swami Vivekananda called this yoga Raj Yoga. Raj Yoga is, it's not a technical word. Raja means the king of all yogas. So he says, without Raj Yoga, the other three yogas are not possible. That is why he wrote this book on Raj Yoga, which is a commentary on the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which shows the mind is so important. It is through mind you get bhakti, the emotional side of the mind you develop bhakti. The willpower when you develop, it results in karma yoga, the capacity to act properly or act in a correct way, and the capacity to understand, that is cognition. That is also depending on how the mind is controlled through Raj Yoga. So Raj Yoga is primary, I mean, it is the prime mover in Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Karma Yoga. So that is why he says it is a king amongst yogas. That is why called Raja Yoga. So that is how the four yogas Swami Vivekananda has defined. But in all these cases, you will find the instrument is the mind. So without the mind, there cannot be bhakti, there cannot be jnana, there cannot be karma yoga also. If we don't put our mind, if to do a work very skillfully, it should be calm. It should not only have the skill set, but it should be free from disturbances. If a person is mind is disturbed, and there are so many, even though he may be very skillful, but his disturbed mind, there are so many distractions that will not allow him to use his skills properly. So karma yoga also is not possible without calmness of the mind. Without Raj Yoga, which is chitta vritti nirodha, when you stop the waves of the mind or at least reduce its turbulence. There's a lot of turbulence in the mind. So even if I have a very skillful mind, very trained mind to do the work perfectly, but other influences are creating turbulence in the mind, either emotional or any other turbulence, that will result in karma yoga suffering. Then you cannot analyze. Jnana Yoga is out of question, because in Jnana Yoga you have to focus so much on rational and correct thinking. And in Bhakti Yoga, of course, if you are emotionally disturbed, so many people get disturbed emotionally, so there is no question of getting emotionally attached to our Ishta Devata, or the God whom we worship as a personal God. To develop bhakti, for that, we need to control our emotions. So everywhere, control our thoughts, cognition, Jnana Yoga, control our emotions, Bhakti Yoga, and control our will to do the work properly without allowing the disturbed mind, without allowing uh, the mind to be disturbed. So calmness of mind can help all the three yogas. So we find it is the superiority of the mind. When you say a person's buddhi is developed, he has a superior mind. It may be skillful or it may not be skillful. For example, if you find most of these great prophets, they didn't have academic excellence. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna never went to school. He could not even uh, uh, do arithmetic, simple arithmetic. That doesn't mean he was not skillful. He was, all his skills, the whole life was spent in developing the higher mind, because he understood the importance of higher mind. So whatever knowledge he said you get through the mind, if it comes to the higher mind, then it is correct knowledge. The other knowledge, it may be very skillful, but it will not be of much use. So say, for example, a person like Hitler or somebody who has wonderful skills of controlling people, of administrating, and he has a wonderful capacity to rule other people and to uh, uh, take military action and all those things. But because it was not directed properly, which is the function of buddhi, without wisdom, that knowledge, whatever knowledge we acquire, that is likely to be misused, and that will make a person miserable. So we find the conclusion about the nature or the need for investigating into the nature of the mind is that we have to accept first, as a first uh, condition, that or the first important thing to understand is that all the means, the indispensable means of acquiring knowledge is the mind. So mind is an instrument. Just as if we want to acquire certain bodily skills, the body is very important. A fit body or a healthy body is very important. Similarly, a healthy mind, a healthy or a well-developed mind, both the lower as well as the higher mind, is the means of right knowledge. That is one thing you have to remember. Second point which we have to remember is, as I said, since Raj Yoga insists that the more mind is concentrate on the object of study, it may be mathematics, it may be music. Without concentration, there is no, we cannot acquire knowledge. This is the second principle. Now, what knowledge you want, what skill you want to develop, that you can choose. But the common factor is, without concentration of mind, without an undisturbed mind, the knowledge is not only deep, but it's not even clear. We have a hazy idea. We make guesses, we make mistakes. That is, even for clear and deep knowledge, we need concentration. So Swami Vivekananda gives the example of a lake. If there are too many waves, there's too much of disturbance on the surface of the lake, then you can't see what is at the bottom. When the mind becomes still, like the lake becomes still, there are no waves, then you can see the bottom. So we cognize, we understand things, we judge things. Everything is done through the mind. Though we may use other sense organs, we see through the eyes, we smell through our nose, many things, all the inputs are coming. But how we process it? Something joins all the knowledge that we get through the sense organs and conveys it to our mind. And then the higher mind decides what we should do with that knowledge, how we should use that knowledge. So we see that no knowledge is possible. I'm repeating what are the conditions of uh, uh, proper knowledge. I mean, when do we see that we have explored the mind to such an extent that we do whatever we do perfectly? One is, it should be a still mind, the calmness of mind. So we come to Raj Yoga again. There, if the mind is distracted or bewildered, there's so many confusing ideas. The confused mind cannot see things clearly. The first condition is that somehow we have to uh, develop the possibilities by concentrating the mind, by using the method of Raj Yoga, Patanjali's yoga, to make the mind calm. The higher mind, once it becomes calm, then it can use all the skill sets the lower mind has developed for a good purpose and for a useful purpose. So through the mind we see, we see through the eyes, but it is the mind which decides what we see is the right thing. We have the choice. We may see something and make our own judgment. If the mind, two people may see the same thing. For example, the example is given in Vedanta that in a dark night, somebody sees a small stump of a tree. It has the shape of a human being. So a person who is full of fear will see a ghost. His heart starts uh, beating fast because he has imagined that what he is seeing is a ghost or a robber. So if the idea of robber is in the mind, so that is what we mean by seeing through the mind. We see through the eyes, no doubt. The eyes are seeing the same thing. One person is seeing just a tree. He says it's a simple tree, harmless tree, a broken tree. But just because it has the shape of a human being or the shadows show that there's somebody, the other person is making a judgment. So we see through the mind, we hear through the mind, we hear some noise, somebody is telling something. It is the mind which interprets it and either understands it or misunderstands it. Somebody might have told a very simple thing without any bad intention. But if a doubting mind, he will always think that this person's intention are not correct. He may be meaning this or he may not be meaning this. So though the ears are hearing the same sound, two people will react differently. That is because of the buddhi. So buddhi tells you, though we say that it is the ears that hear, strictly speaking, if the mind is not there, mind is not attached through all these five sense organs and the five karmendriyas and five gyanendriyas, no knowledge is possible. So you understand the importance. If the mind is attached in a proper way, what we see, we interpret correctly. What I see, what Sri Ramakrishna saw, we understood there's a huge difference between my seeing and somebody else's seeing. Because they use their mind, which is developed in a particular way, to interpret what they see in one way. Another person sees it in a much better way, and a Buddha may see it in a much better way. So, through the mind, this is the third principle of uh, understanding what the functions of the mind is. Through the mind we hear, through the mind we see, through the mind we speak, even speaking, that is also an indriya, mouth. We speak through the mind because we don't speak randomly. Whatever we see, we react in a particular way, either correctly or wrongly. Because the mind tells you that you tell this. Many times we regret. There is a beautiful article, beautiful speech by Swami Ranganathanji. He was given this topic to speak by the Western people in America, which is a very secular topic, the power of the spoken word. It appears to be a very simple topic, but it's a very difficult topic. Power of the spoken word is not referring to the japa and other things, those are mental repetitions, but how the spoken word can change a person and the person with whom he is interacting. How careful we have to be when we speak. Speech we can randomly speak anything. The mind may, the tongue may be given free rein, but then you know how a wrong word uttered at a wrong time can create so many problems, though you may not intend to do that. So the power of the spoken word in that beautiful lecture, Ranganathan says every minute, every time we speak, every time we utter if there is a spoken word, it has some impact. It is just like energy. Every time you speak something, it makes or breaks a thing. You have to be very careful how you handle the spoken word. So, through the mind also we speak, because the mind will tell you what to speak. And if the mind is not controlled, then you'll speak without thinking. And then the consequences can be very bad. So, we speak, we see through the mind, make our own judgments based on what our mind tells us. You may be seeing a simple thing, but you may understand it in a very complicated way and try to see things which are not have no connection with reality. You may start imagining. You may see a rope in the dark and think it is a snake and then try to run away from that. So we are seeing, but we are seeing through the mind. Our mind tells us whether it is a rope or a snake. If you think it is a rope, if you are seeing it properly, you will see it as a rope. But if you see with your mind which is disturbed or which is full of fear, then it will always see snakes. Similarly, all the organs, bodily organs, though we say it is our bodily organs, sense organs, Gyanendriya, that is the all the knowledge organs, eyes, ears, and all those things, sound, and bodily organs which are mouth, because we have to speak through the mouth, and we have to act through the using our hands and other all the karmendriyas also. So all of them, they can function. You have to remember in association with the mind only. So as our mind, so our personality. That is the final conclusion of this. Because in fact, Buddha says the problem of our problem, main problem is the problem of the mind. He does not give so much importance to the body because he says mind is everything. As you think, so you become. The actions that you do, the karmendriyas will function according to the mind. The Gyanendriyas will understand the situation according to the mind. So Buddha was very wise. He said, if you take care of the mind, then you don't have to take care of the organs individually. Gyanendriya, Karmendriya, the master of the senses is the mind. That is why in some schools of Vedanta, as I've told earlier, mind is also considered to be an indriya. It is a superior indriya which controls the other lower indriyas. I mean, indirectly you can say the higher mind controls the lower mind. So if the mind, buddhi is developed, you may see the same thing as somebody else. You will interpret it in a different way. And you will react to it in a different way. And that makes a tremendous change in our personality. Our personality changes according to our mind. So the that's why in the Upanishads it is said, he who is the master of his mind is a sage, and who is the slave of the mind is a fool. What do you mean by master of the mind or slave of the mind? See, if the buddhi is developed, then the buddhi, the higher mind, is the master of the mind. So buddhi is in a position to tell what to do, what not to do. Slave of the mind means we succumb to the lower mind. The lower mind will not tell you what to do, what not to do. It will just tell you to react. In animals, if somebody comes to beat them, they will come and they will quarrel with them, because their body and the mind have been trained in such a way that they can just react to situation. Whereas if the buddhi is developed, then you are in control. Mind is, you are not slave. One who is slave to the mind is a fool, and the one who is in control of his lower mind. Here by the mind, they mean the lower mind. So one who uses the buddhi, the higher mind, to control the lower mind is a sage. He is a rishi. And one who is a slave to it is not, no better than animals. So he is a fool. So the question is, what is the nature of the mind? This is what we discussed till now, is what the mind does. What is its importance? What is the lower mind? What is the higher mind? And the most important thing is, in connection with our body, with all the other koshas, annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, our bodily functions, and then we have manomaya kosha. What is the position in our human personality? How important is the mind? That is another question. And secondly, just knowing is not enough. How to manipulate that mind for our good? So the same mind which can give us trouble can help us out of this trouble. So one important thing Vedanta says is that mind is not like any other sense object. That is why we can't analyze it. It is very close to the subject. It is not an object. Though we can feel that this is my mind is not happy, my mind is happy, my mind is depressed, and then we say, I don't have peace of mind. We say, but then when you analyze, you don't know where is that mind, what is lacking peace, what is wandering. It's the thoughts that are wandering, it's the sense organs that are wandering. And then you try to catch the mind, you can't catch it. So we have to indirectly know how to control the mind by trying to find out how it can be manipulated by analyzing it a little bit. So that is how Buddha says, first, to control the mind, you should know what it is, how it is playing tricks on you, how it is playing tricks through your mind. You are playing tricks on others, they get influenced, and whether the mind is in contact with each other. That is another aspect of the mind. Just as prana, there is a universal prana. That means the forces which are running my body, the forces which are running somebody else's body, the first forces that are running the plants, the whole universe, they call it a cosmic prana. So we have, just as Virat or the cosmic body, just as every atom is connected to each other, all the forces are also connected to each other. So if there is heat in this room, the heat will be transmitted to the chair or any other object. So they are all interconnected. Though I may say I am feeling hot, but it is the heat in the room that is I am absorbing, and that's why I feel the heat. Similarly, the body, the mind also, Vedanta says, according to, or the yoga, philosophy of yoga says, our mind is also connected to other minds. So in the room, perhaps if there are five people with five different minds, we may think our mind is independent. And there's another person who's having his mind. And definitely they are different minds. But still, according to Vedanta, the just as the heat in one object is transmitted to another object nearby, it may take time. It may not be as hot as a iron ball if it is heated and another iron ball is kept near. The heat will slowly get absorbed. It may not immediately be transferred to the other iron ball, but it moves. Similarly, they say mind also, there's a universal mind. We are parts of that universal mind. And the mind which is disturbed. This is a very important fact. If you have read the some of the issues of Vedanta, where Ashokananji discusses a lot about vibrations, how mental vibrations and other vibrations, we can understand heat vibrations, sound vibrations, how they disturb each other. Somebody makes a sound, no matter how much we try, it disturbs us. If you sit in a shrine, somebody makes a noise, it simply the vibrations come and disturb you. Similarly, they say the mental vibrations also have the capacity, though we don't perceive it immediately, but its effect can be seen. So when you say that I was absent minded, I had no peace of mind, it is your state. But mind you, that lack of peace of mind, we are actually transmitting it to the people around us. So if you go in the presence of Buddha, if you see, there is a beautiful painting of Christ sitting and all the birds and wild animals coming and sitting. Similarly, that was actually Swami Trigunatitananji, inspired by one painting of Buddha. There are a lot of paintings made on Buddha. So they say even the Tirthankar Mahavir, who was a contemporary of Buddha, he was so much established in ahimsa. They said even the poisonous snakes and the wild animals would come and peacefully sit in their presence. That is because of the power of non-violence or ahimsa that they transmitted. So it is possible. The human mind, the vibrations of the human mind can, if the mind has been developed, like prophets, like Buddha, they can do, because their minds are in tune with the universal mind and they radiate peace. Just as a hot iron ball radiates heat, the mind also, this is a very important thing we have to understand. It can radiate peace or it can radiate disturbance also. The other way is also true. A highly turbulent person, if he comes, a person with a turbulent mind comes, there is a chance, unless the other person is very strong or insulated, he will absorb a little bit of that turbulence. But we don't see it, we don't perceive it, because sometimes the effect takes time, or sometimes the effect is not there, because the person who is sitting, his mind is so strong that he does not easily absorb the uh, negative vibrations of that person. So it depends on the person also, how strong his mind is. So that is why Swamiji says that the training of the mind should be such that even if I am saying it's he quotes from the Gita. Yeah, Gita, there is a beautiful verse Sri Krishna is telling. One who finds intense peace, it's a verse in the 4th chapter, I think, where he says, a person in the midst of intense noise and commotion and turmoil finds the intensest peace sitting there. And one who is intensely active even when he is in solitude, active in the sense not restless, he is very active doing meditation, deep meditation, doing his japa. When he is in the midst of this, and he is intensely active when everything is quiet, because the ideal is not to go into solitude and become a dull person with a dull mind. That is what happens when people just go and to a very peaceful place. They just want to run away uh, from noise and disturbing thoughts. So they said just to escape, they go to solitude. That is not what Krishna wants. He said go to solitude, but be intensely active. So one who finds intense action in the midst of perfect calmness, mental action. I mean, mentally is very active, either doing his, saying his prayers or doing intense meditation, doing japa, whatever spiritual practice he is doing in solitude. The same person maintains intense calmness, doesn't allow the turbulence of the world outside him to disturb him. That mind is a sthita prajna. That is what Sri Krishna explains in the second chapter, third chapter, fourth chapter. You will find that the effect of other minds, just as I said, there is the effect of the spoken word. When we speak something, we speak sometimes are so careless about how we speak, what we speak, and then we regret. So, in this wonderful talk, Swami Ranganathanji says, every moment we are using, when we are speaking, of course, uh, when we are using the spoken word, how many changes take place? If if Buddha speaks, if Ramakrishna speaks, or if some great person speaks, they can transform a human life. And if people with very bad intentions, if they speak, they can create quarrels, they can create the effect of words. If it is so much, then imagine what is the effect of the mind. As I said, we speak through the mind, we think through the mind, we see through the mind. That is what it means here. That the power, the effect of the mind, effect of the spoken word, we can understand. How we speak a single word and how it creates a immediate reaction and how quarrels start. It starts with a simple word. It can start with a simple spoken word and it can create a problem. We see that the impact of spoken word on other being. But what about the impact of the mind, the thoughts of the mind on others? That is the secret, according to Vedic philosophers. This mind, though it is distinct from the body, and also another fact, it's a distinct from the knowing self, the pure consciousness. So it is like a sandwich. The manomay kosha and the vijnanamay kosha connects the body with the self. So they are not independent. The mind is the intermediary between, it communicates to the body, and whatever changes in the body, that's why you see if there is too much of indigestion and if we neglect our body, it affects the mind. On the other hand, if the higher mind does not meditate or allows the mind to just wander, it affects the body also. Other way around. So it is like a sandwich. So it is an intermediate between our body and the soul, the pure consciousness. So if it is the nearer it is to buddhi, the less its impact will be on the body. And the less turbulence it will have, or less effect it will have on the body. So these personalities, though for convenience, the first two chapters we discussed, the 5 different layers of the human personality. Annamaya kosha, that is our body. Pranamaya kosha, the different forces that run the body, that is our heartbeat, everything, stress, the nervous energy, all these energies, though they are running the body, we don't realize that it is the mind which is running them. So a totally angry person, we say his stress levels impact his body. His digestion will suffer. So many things will happen to the body. Though we cannot see the link. The problem is we do not see the link between the body. Though we say it is a psychosomatic problem. Psycho means mind. Somatic means body. So it is a problem. We know that the mind is something which separates, which connects the self, our individual self, the knowing self. That is what Indian philosophy says. It considers the mind as something more subtle than Annamaya kosha, the body, more subtle even than Pranamaya kosha, but it has the same properties. It has a same property as the pranamaya kosha. As the prana can be transmitted, the atoms, the heat, and all those things can be transmitted from one object to another. Similarly, the mental thoughts, the mental energy, good or bad, both, it also can be transmitted, which Western psychology has two different views about this. We will have to remember that our philosophy thinks of a self which sees the mind as an object. That is why the whole of yoga can be understood only if you objectify the mind. Mind is something which is difficult to control, but definitely if it is an object, you can control it. Just as we control our tongue, we control our actions, we control the objects that are around us, how we manipulate them. Similarly, Vedanta says there is a higher buddhi which can control the lower mind. So, Manomaya Kosha can be controlled by the Vijnanamaya Kosha. So, but Western philosophers, they have two different views. According to the modern science or the neurologists, the mind is just a function of our body, which is a very crude idea. They think it is our brain, it is our nervous system which will decide what we will think. No, they don't accept a mind which is independent from the body. So everything they will trace to the body. That is why in modern psychiatry, of course, it is partially true because they give some medicines, some tranquilizers, and the mind becomes immediately calm. And then they say, see, we just treated the body. That means we gave some tablets and the mind became calm. But if we go deeper, it's not solving the problem. Temporarily, it is allowing us to calm down the mind in a very, you may say, artificial way. The moment you stop medicines, you see, you might have seen that the whole life it will be depending on those small tablets. Then you have to increase the dose, and every time you need some physical thing to control the mind. So Vedanta says that is not the right way, though temporarily it may work, because as Vedanta says, mind acts on the body, body also acts on the mind. So they are taking that idea to treat the body when they should be treating the higher mind. Actually, they should be focusing on the higher mind to treat the mind, not the body. So what happens when, as long as you take some drugs or some medicines, the mind will behave in a proper way. The moment you stop, it will cease to, it will go back to its old, it's some kind of temporary relief you get. So that is why Vedanta says, if you control this lower mind by the higher mind, which we have to develop, it is not so easy. It may be very easy to say Vijnanamaya Kosha, but to reach that level of buddhi, it requires a discipline, just as we need to do a lot of research to find which drug acts as a tranquilizer, calms down the human personality. So much research has gone. It's not insignificant. It's a great discovery. At least temporary relief you get. But then it is like controlling the higher by the lower, which is not possible. It's like trying to control the cart by the horse. The horse by the cart. The horse has to control the cart, not the other way around. Because the human body is definitely more grosser. That is what we discussed in the previous classes, that the finer thing can control the grosser thing which is below it, or which is a part of that personality. So prana controls the body. That is why we do exercises, we go to the gym, we use all our pancha prana, 5 pranas, breathing, pranayama we do asana to make our body steady and make it healthy. Prana is always controlling the annamaya kosha or the body. When we go one level up, the reactive mind can control the prana and the body. Then Vedanta says, do go one step finer. When you go one step finer, you come to the buddhi, and that is where yoga comes, where spirituality comes. So that is the finest part of our personality, which can control the mind easily. We can do it through drugs, we can do it through exercise, we can do it through nutrition. That's the from lower to higher. It works. It works because body and mind are connected. But it works better if we use the buddhi to control the mind. That's why so much of importance was given to prayer, meditation, the Gayatri, even though it was given as a ritual, it has become a ritual now, but the idea was Dhiyo Yona Prachodayata. The child from the age of 6, boy or girl, has to repeat this again and again. O Son, Lord, the Lord of knowledge, that is Lord of shining knowledge, we pray to the Sun, that please illumine my buddhi, dhiyo yona prachodayata. So that buddhi, that illumined vijnanamay kosha, or the faculty of buddhi, let it illumine everything below it. The manomay kosha first, with a healthy mind, then slowly it percolates to the prana, and then it percolates to the body. But then you may say that why does a very meditative person doesn't always have good health? You see, there is a reason. That is one of the arguments. Silly argument, but of course, it many people ask this because they think spirituality is just to cure some disease or have good health. So, if you see, go to YouTube, you will find many YouTube videos, people having foolish discussions about why such a great yogi as Vivekananda, did he have diabetes, why he fell ill. It's a ridiculous question because the thing is, the functions of the higher functions of the buddhi, they are to be used for spiritual development, not for, though one of the functions is they could do it, yogis could do it. If you see Pavari Baba, Swami Vivekananda was very much inspired by him because he found that he had so many troubles. He wanted a healthy body, wanted to be strong, even eating less food. He saw Pavari Baba hardly eats anything. And his Rajoga, I mean, he was stay in a cave in Gazipur. So he was so inspired by Pavari Baba, he felt that, see, this person is not eating anything and still has such a wonderful health and he can sit for hours together. So he said, if I could develop that skill, that is an indirect way. By controlling the body, you control the mind. But Sri Ramakrishna came in a vision. 3 consecutive nights he came and told, this is not your path. This can work, it can work for some time, but ultimately you should use the power of buddhi, the vijnanamay kosha, to control the mind. Because the higher force, the higher personality, if it controls the lower personality, then it works on a permanent basis. But if you use the lower aspects of our personality, the pranayama is very good. That is why Patanjali starts with yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, the first 4 steps. But he says don't stop there. You go to pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, because he knows that if you get stuck at the first 4, then you will be a very healthy person, but with a very useless mind. Because you are not done dharana, you are not done pratyahara, which is the goal of yoga. So you have to always climb the steps. Ashtanga yoga, there are different steps. But some people are happy if they get the knowledge of pranayama, they have a very healthy body. But how long you can keep the body healthy? Say 100 years, 120 years. But after that, what? These are temporary things. That is why Sri Krishna says, focus more on the mind, because the subtle body is what you will inherit in your next birth. The physical body, no matter how healthy it was, after the body and the prana goes, the human body and the prana becomes very insignificant. It doesn't determine what life you have in the next birth. So he says nothing is lost if you develop the higher faculties. Because Arjuna was doubting. He said, after doing sadhana, suppose I die one day, then what will happen to all the spiritual practices that I have done, all the Gayatri mantra that I have done, all the sadhana that we have done? Will it also go, will it be wasted? Just as all the money that we gather, all the name, fame, everything the body dies, we leave everything behind. So he thinks all my spiritual practices also I'll leave. I have to start from uh, beginning. So there Sri Krishna says nothing is lost, because the subtle thing survives Annamaya Kosha and the Pranamaya Kosha. And that is very important, that this mind, it survives. May not be the lower mind. See, you have to remember this. The Manomaya Kosha will not be inherited. Say, for example, you are an excellent footballer now because you have developed those skill sets, or you are an excellent computer engineer. There's no need, no, it's not mandatory that in the next birth you will inherit those, because that will disintegrate along with the body. It's only the Vijnanamaya Kosha. If you see, we'll come to the transmission, the idea of rebirth and idea of what survives the physical body and what goes to the next birth. What are the qualities that you inherit? It is only the Vijnanamaya Kosha, or the higher mind, that doesn't get dissolved. All other things, the Pranamaya Kosha, Annamaya Kosha, once the body dies, once you burn it, there's no Annamaya Kosha, there's no Pranamaya Kosha. Prana also goes because there's no effect. The body is dead. It has no prana. That is why when somebody dies, we say the prana has left the body. We don't say body leaves the prana. It's the prana which leaves the body, then it becomes useless. So prana also disintegrates. The Manomaya Kosha also disintegrates along with the prana. Most of it, a little samskaras may remain, but what remains is the spiritual, the yoga that you have done. That's why Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, don't worry, you will inherit those spiritual qualities and continue from where you left in the previous birth. That explains that the more subtle the progress, I mean, the more you develop towards the higher level of personality, they will be carried over to the next birth. This is what Gita says, this is what the Upanishad says. Because we believe in karma, we believe in rebirth. It's a very logical and scientific way to understand the human personality, how it disintegrates, what survives. Mind survives, but not the lower mind, it's the higher mind. So this distinction has to be understood. When you study the mind, you have to remember there is a mind which affects the body and determines the bodily function. And there is another higher aspect of the mind which survives the body and is taken over to the next birth. So this differentiation, we'll discuss it in the next class. The time is almost over. So in the next class, we'll discuss what is the relationship between the higher mind and the lower mind, between the Vijnanamaya Kosha and the Manomaya Kosha. Both are mind you. According to the Western psychology, there is only one mind. Mostly what they mean by mind is the Manomaya Kosha. I don't think they have a very clear idea, though Jesus says, when he says the spirit, very often it is interpreted as the higher mind, the intuitive mind, which can make you take the right decisions, make the right choices, which will ultimately result in Shreya, not Preya. That is, it may not lead to worldly good, but it will lead to spiritual merit. It will lead to a spiritually meritorious life, which will not be lost when the body is destroyed. So, are there any questions? How does it? Huh? Oh, how does one attain discernment? Discernment, that's what I'm saying. The faculty of buddhi is what discernment is. See, there are two words used in English, discrimination and discernment. Nowadays, they are using discernment because discrimination is used in another sense. Discrimination between black and white, between rich and poor. That is a very negative word. But earlier, Viveka was known as uh, discrimination. But now, when they translate the word Viveka Buddhi, development of Buddhi, they translate it as discernment. So the question is how to attain. So that is what I was saying. When you come to the training of the mind, one of the earliest methods, historically, the Vedic method was, uh, it was built in our education system. So at the age of 6 and 8, as I said, when the mind, higher mind starts developing, along with the development of the lower mind, Gayatri Mantra was given. That is one way. But later on, there were so many spiritual practices discovered. They reduced the mantra. Gayatri Mantra is a long prayer. So that became smaller and smaller. They have the mantra shastra, mantra yoga. Then there so many different philosophies came. They said even with smaller mantras, you can have this concentration and the awakening of the buddhi. So discernment comes only when the buddhi awakens. That's in brief. Now, if you ask me, what do you mean by buddhi? That will take a lot of time, because uh, these two distinction, today we just discussed the distinction between manas and buddhi. Mano, buddhya, ahankara. Then we have to discuss about ahankara, ego. Then chitta, that is the storage of all our old samskaras, which we inherit birth after birth. So all those things are we'll discuss in the next class. But easiest way is through prayer. All the prayers are same. The good prayers, I mean, we can pray for material objects also, which are not always answered. But the prayer for spiritual wealth or for buddhi is supposed to be the highest prayer. That is represented by Gayatri Mantra in Vedic tradition, and in modern Mantra Yoga, which is Tantras and Shakti Puja, and so many new systems which are obviously based on our Vedic knowledge. It is based on the Gayatri Mantra, but the essence of Gayatri Mantra is given in the mantra that is given by the Guru. Yeah. It's okay? Any question here? No question? Huh? Yeah, there are other ways. Yes, that's a good question. That can this buddhi, or what is the question? Discernment. Yeah. Discernment need not always be through mantra. There is Jnana Yoga, where there is no question of mantra, because they don't believe. Discernment also can be a result of trying to analyze. Jnana Yoga uses the path of what is temporary, what is permanent, what is real, what is unreal. Real and unreal is a bit confusing, because if you say the body is unreal, they'll say, how can you say body is unreal? Body is definitely, I think, it's what it real and unreal, nitya, anitya, viveka, vastu, viveka. Sri Ramakrishna used to say in the gospel, we have to do, first go to solitude, nirjan vas korte hoy, tarpore nitya, anitya, vastu, viveka. That's the second method. Other than japa and prayer are easy, that is why it was recommended. But those who can follow the path of jnana, they have to always be alert, holding on to the nitya, giving up the anitya. So it's a constant discernment. So that is what discernment is. So that is Jnana Yoga. And then Karma Yoga also can help. We can get that discernment by doing good actions, which Buddha recommended. Buddha said, you don't bother about all this yoga and philosophy and all. Just go on doing good to. I was discussing, there's wonderful stories about Buddha. That Buddha had 500 previous lives. Many lives were like as animals, because Buddhism believes in karma yoga, the law of karma and rebirth. So Buddha's story, there are many stories which show in previous lives, so many lives, as animals, as human being, Buddha has sacrificed his life for the service of others, with the intention of serving others, for the benefit of others. After 499 lives, they show that he gets the birth, he is born as Buddha in his 500th life. So you can imagine, so much of karma yoga, good action he has done. So through good action also we can get that discernment. Okay, that's not the only method, but according to Sri Ramakrishna, in this Kali Yuga, bhakti and uh, worshipping a personal God with a mantra can be very easy, because Jnana Yoga can be difficult, Raj Yoga also can be difficult, Karma Yoga is very difficult because very often we do good things and we get only bad name and criticism for that, so we give up doing good. Whereas Buddha continued to do good, and he said, be good and do good, which is very difficult, because even after doing good and being good, bad things happen to us and then people lose faith. So, Karma Yoga also can be difficult, but it is definitely a path. Yes. Yes.
um, help us understand the meaning of the word Savitra.
Meaning of the word?
Savitra.
Okay.
Right.
Savitra is actually sun. Sun, as it is symbolic. Literally, you should not take it as the physical sun. So, sun is the most brightest object that we encounter, isn't it? In nature. So, sun is a symbol of light, of enlightenment. So, ignorance or wrong understanding is always compared to darkness. So, just as the sun, when the sun rises, all the darkness, all the ignorance is dispelled. So, Savitra is the sun god. So, because the Vedas believed in worshipping uh, nature, they took this idea of Savitri, which they thought is bright, and naturally it has a psychological effect. You always think of light, you always think of brightness, you always think of knowledge, and the ignorance slowly vanishes. Because when the sun comes, the darkness goes. So that is a meditation. So we say Tatsavitur Varenyam. One who is respected as Savitri, he is to be worshipped, because may he be gracious to enlighten mind. So my mind is full of darkness. So the sun, that is why in all the other mantras also, the meaning of all mantras is there is darkness in the heart, and you have the Ishta Devata, whether it is Krishna, Rama, or any other God, Jesus, Buddha. We always are told to imagine that every time you repeat the prayer or the mantra, the darkness of ignorance, because of which you are making wrong judgments, or discernment or viveka is not there, let him sit inside and make me uh, full of knowledge. That is the idea behind Gayatri Mantra, behind all the sadhana that we do. It's a universal method. So Savitri is symbolic. You should not take it literally as the sun. Yeah. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna